Marcus, you hit those lights. I can see all these beautiful people. Man, wow. How about we do this real quick? Could these people slide this way a little bit so I don't have to walk 40 miles to get to this side to talk to you guys? Welcome, guys in the back. It's great to see you tonight. Glad you're here. Great to see you. Come squish together. The divide is great, people. Battle of the sexes. All right, cool. If you have a phone tonight, which who doesn't have a phone? It's 2017. Come on. Take your phone. If you're in the front row, put it underneath your chair. If you have it in the back rows, put it in the pocket. We can be without our phones, right? For like 20 minutes. We can do it. I'm putting my phone away too. I promise I won't text during my message. All right. What if this could be your best year yet? Anybody want to think that 2017 could be your best year yet? Who has things that they want to see in 2017? Anybody? When I said, what do you want to see happen? Yeah? You want to see a movie? Wow, you got big dreams. Dream huge, man. Some of you are graduating. You're going to go to college. Seniors. Connor, you're graduating. Where's your woohoo? Wow. Some of you are going to get a grade that's higher than a B for the first time in your life. No. Maybe. Some of you are going to make new friends. Some of you get on sports teams. All of us, though, hope that this year is the best year yet, right? You haven't given up yet, have you? Like 13 years in, you're like, you know what? I've hit my peak. It's all downhill from here. That's depressing, okay? I hope that you have some hopes and dreams for the future. I believe that 2017 can be our best year yet. Everybody say that. My best year yet is going to be 2017. I like it. I like it. What if this could be the year that you personally took a step deeper in your relationship with the Lord? I don't know where you're at spiritually, okay? All of you are probably at different places. Some of you read your Bible every day. Some of you have not opened a Bible once in your life. You have no idea what a Bible is. You don't know where to start. You don't know who Jesus is. But some of you have been a Christian your whole life. Since you came out of the womb, you were singing worship music, right? Like you grew up, you know all the stories, you know all the answers. We, in this room, run the whole gambit of spiritual maturity. But what if for you, what would it look like for this to be your best year spiritually? That if you don't know God anyway, that you just took one little step towards him, saying, okay, I'm going to at least open my heart to what the possibility of knowing God is. If you've been a Christian for a long time, and maybe there's another step that you need to take to go deeper in your faith this year. But I really believe this is going to be your best year yet. You can't do it by just doing the same thing you've always done. Like if you want to get somewhere better, you got to leave some stuff behind. Right? Like you can't keep doing stuff the old way if you want to do something differently better. And all of us in this room, I know, bring in different struggles, different sins that we deal with, different issues, different problems. And we've carried those from 2016 straight into 2017. And if we're not careful, the danger is that you could get to the end of 2017 and look back and say, what really happened? Did I really grow? I'm at the same place or maybe worse because I'm still struggling with the same stuff. I still have the same issues. I'm still wrestling with the same sin. I'm not anywhere further along than I was in 2016, so I've wasted another year. But what would it look like if you took another step spiritually, but you also let go of some things that you've been holding on to, some sins, some struggles, some things that you've been holding on to, and you let those things go? Hebrews 12:1 says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. I think a lot of you in this room are bringing into 2016 a lot of weight. It's holding you back from really running the race that God has for you, from living the life that God has for you. That you're holding on to some stuff that you might even like. You might like your sin. It might bring you some pleasure, but you're holding on to it, and it's actually holding you back from getting to where you want to go to. Sex seems so great. Buying to the lies of pornography and sexting and sex, and so you get caught up in these things and these habits, these patterns that seem so amazing. They promise to bring you so much joy, but they're actually weighing you down. Status seems so great, so you buy into the lie that your social media has to be perfect, and even if your life sucks, At least nobody knows about it. Right? Like your Instagram looks a certain way, feels you're always wearing the right clothes, you always got the right picture. You take 200 selfies before you get the right one. You get the perfect camera shot. What was your shot yesterday? I see. Real professional shot. Looks so good. Looks so good. Our lives look so good on social media. Our status, we worship our status. We can think all day long about the picture we're going to post and how many likes we're going to get. And so it's promises that if you have a certain number of followers or a certain number of likes or whatever it is, that somehow that's going to make your life better. Instead of actually moving you forward, that's weighing you down. Stuff seems so great. And so you try to get the next big thing. Some of you get the iPhone 7 Plus and you're like 12 years old. I'm like, what the heck? When I was playing with fake cell phones. And they didn't even look cool back then. I was flipping those things, thinking I was so cool, got a walkie-talkie. I was the man. But you got iPhone 7 Pluses, like makes my little phone look so dinky. And I'm 25 almost. All right, we always want the next thing. Some of you want the next Yeezys. I hear you talking yesterday about Yeezys. We're following all these websites with these Yeezys. I want the next shoes. I need the next clothing, whatever it is. We think that maybe if we just get enough stuff, that we'll finally be happy. But how many of you are fully completed after Christmas? Anybody just at the day after Christmas, you got all this stuff, and you're like, you know what, my life this is it. I'm completed. I got my stuff. I'm good to go. No. We're going to need more stuff next year. You don't retire from wanting more stuff, do you? You're not like, Mom and Dad, thank you. You hit the mark this year. I am completely good. You can take Christmas off the rest of my life. No, you're already thinking about your list for next year because there's more stuff that you need. It'll never end. You need more stuff. So we think stuff is going to make us happy, but what it actually ends up doing is weighing us down. And maybe the reason that we're dealing with more stress, more anxiety, more anger, more laziness, we're having more problems in school, whatever it is, maybe it's because you think that those things that you're pursuing after are going to help you when they're actually making your problems worse. So you think that, oh, I'm just sad, so I need to go update my status. I need a new picture. I need to go look at this thing, or I need to get this thing, and that will make me happier. But what it actually does, it makes you further depressed, makes you further hate yourself. And so it makes this problem continue and continue and continue until you're weighed down more and more and more and more until you can't really move forward at all. Did you know that 2.8 million youth, 12 through 17, had at least one major depressive episode in 2014? All right, that age is getting lower and lower and lower and lower. It used to be unheard of that you would struggle with depression in middle school. But I talk to you guys all the time, and you're dealing with so much stress and anxiety and self-image issues at 12 and 13 and 14, and maybe the problem is that we're pursuing the wrong things, hoping those things will satisfy. The suicide rate is up higher than ever. It's proven that 90% of suicide victims dealt with depression and anxiety and self-image issues. So maybe the things that we're pursuing is making the problem worse instead of actually moving us to where we want to be. If in 2017 you're going to get somewhere new, you might need to leave some stuff behind. You know that at least 9 out of 10 of the guys in this room have looked at pornography at one time or another. And the problem isn't much better for girls. It's 6 out of 10 girls have. That 30% of students who were honest said that they look at pornography at least one time a week. And maybe our problems with rape in our culture and sexting and girls feeling like they do more and more isn't just a problem in itself, but it's a reaction to these things that we've held on to that perpetuate themselves and weigh us down. Guys, we got to wake up. It has to stop somewhere. Like, what if you guys were the ones who decide, no, it ends here? Yeah, my schools are filled with drugs. My schools are filled with sexting and sex and alcohol, whatever it is. It's filled with it, but I'm going to be different because I know that I want to get somewhere where they're not. And I want something better than where everybody else is going. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to make a decision in 2017 to leave some stuff behind. So tonight, I want to look at a story that Jesus had in John with a woman who was caught in a whole crap load of sin. And maybe it will give us a little hope as we go forward in 2017 that we too can leave some stuff behind. So in John 8, Jesus is at a festival of the booths, okay? The festival of the booths. Anybody know what the festival of the booths was for? Like they just celebrated booths? Like, I don't know, right? The festival of the booths was actually a celebration of God's deliverance of the Israelite people and him guiding them away from the Egypt and protecting them. So that was a celebration in this time that they're looking back and saying, we're thankful for God's protection and his salvation and his deliverance. So Jesus is at this festival, and he is getting up in front of a temple full of people to address them, and something pretty crazy happens. In verse 2, he says, early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down to teach them. So there's this big crowd, probably way more people than in this room, okay? So they're looking at Jesus, waiting for him to teach. It says, the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery and placed her in the midst of the people. So here's this woman who gets caught in her sin. Not only that, she is drug out in front of a whole group of people and placed before Jesus for everybody to see her junk. Would anybody say that's a pretty bad day? Anybody? Like anybody, when you're in the midst of your sin, would love just for someone to pull you out and to bring you out in front of everybody here and say, this is what this person was doing. That would be a crazy, embarrassing, humbling, you want to crawl behind anything you can moment. And so they bring this lady before Jesus and say, teacher, this woman was caught in adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. So what do you say? And they say this to test him so that they might bring some charge against him. So in all of reality, according to the law, the Pharisees were right. This woman, because of what she had done, deserved death. Talk about strict, okay? Like you're told if you commit adultery, you're going to be stoned. Like that's pretty crazy. So this woman actually deserves death. They're coming to Jesus because they're trying to trap Jesus. The Pharisees and the teachers were always trying to trap Jesus so they could find some way to get rid of this guy, because they did not like Jesus. And so they bring this woman trying to catch him and saying, no, that's not what the law says. That's wrong. So they can say he is blasphemous against our law, and they can bring a charge to get rid of this dude. And so they're fully expecting him to say something scandalous that they can use against him. But actually, he doesn't say anything at all. Instead, just imagine there's this huge crowd of people. There's this woman standing here in shame. There's all the Pharisees waiting, asking, what do you say about this teacher? And Jesus says nothing. But instead, he gets down on the ground. Jeans are too tight. I can't do that. He got down on the ground. He probably had like a robe on, so he could have just easily gone down. He just bent over and just wrote on the ground. And he wrote. Just imagine the tension in that place. And the Pharisees are like, are you deaf? Did you hear us? So they ask it again. Teacher, what do you say? Do you hear us? Hello. He's writing. And he gets up and he says this. As he continued to ask him, he stood up and he said to them, let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. There's probably this other awkward pause. This awkward moment where people are looking at their stones and thinking about their own self. And then one by one, they put down the stones and they leave. And I love this because Jesus doesn't even address the law part. He doesn't even address the part that the Pharisees want. He addresses their hearts. And all of a sudden, instead of being in this and him being in the sticky situation, they're in the sticky situation. Because all of a sudden, he's revealing their junk. And when they look at themselves, they know, okay, we actually aren't the people who are in a place to judge. See, Jesus doesn't look at our actions first. He cares about our heart. And each one of his accusers were sinners. Man, I'm so thankful that Jesus didn't come to earth just to enforce the law. Because each one of us deserve death. Like that woman. We might not be drug out in our sin. We might know how to click clear on history. But each of us before God is guilty. Each one of us is deserving of death and separation from God. But you see, what Jesus did by coming to earth was he took care of the law. He was the fulfillment of the law. He didn't come to enforce the law. He came to fulfill the law, which means that the standard that all these laws and rules set up for us that's impossible for us to live up to, Jesus, through his perfect life and his sacrifice on the cross, he became the fulfillment, the perfect one, perfect sacrifice. And now, if we are in Christ, God looks at Jesus as the fulfillment. And we, you and I, are covered. That's good news. That if you and I are right with God, that our hearts, what he sees, is it covered with Jesus. He's not looking at the law and holding us up against the law and nitpicking and saying, oh, I can't believe you did that today. You told me you weren't ever going to do that again, and you did it again. I can't believe you. I don't love you anymore. But Jesus fulfilled the law. So all of the people leave. And there's just a moment where it says Jesus and the woman. They're standing face to face. Imagine this woman. She's feeling so ashamed, so guilt-ridden. She knows in this moment she deserves death. And here she stands before the only one who actually can judge her. And I would guess that she's fully expecting him to say, they can't judge you, but I can. Like, what are we going to do about this? What's your consequence for your sin? But Jesus stood up and he said to her, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, I'm sure looking around and just like, I can't believe this. He says, no one, Lord. And Jesus said, and these are such hopeful words for you and I. He says, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Jesus, the only one who could condemn this woman, looks at her and says, I don't condemn you. I'm actually the one that you sinned against, but I don't condemn you. I love you. In John 3:17, it says, for God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. In Romans 8:1, it says, therefore there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Freedom from condemnation is offered by Jesus. There are some of you in this room who battle with shame and guilt and regret day in and day out, and that actually weighs you down and holds you back from living the life God has for you. You look at your life and you say, I don't measure up. I'm not good enough. I keep messing up time and time and time again. There is no way Jesus could love me. But maybe you, like that woman, you need a face-to-face moment with Jesus where it's just you and Jesus, where he looks at you and says, I don't condemn you. I didn't come to condemn you. I came to give you life. I came to give you life to the fullest. Freedom from condemnation leads to freedom in life. And it is only through Jesus that you and I are free from condemnation. Apart from Jesus, if you haven't said, Jesus, okay, I accept you, I surrender my life to you, and apart from him, yes, we are all deserving of condemnation. We've all fallen short of the mark that God has set for us. But because of Jesus and what he did and coming to this earth, living a perfect life, dying for you and me, he no longer condemns you and me. But he offers freedom. But the result of freedom then is a leaving behind the old ways. So he doesn't say, I don't condemn you, just go on your way. What does he say? He says, now go and leave your life of sin. Go and sin no more. See, grace just given isn't really grace. Grace given, accepted, changes us. If you just get grace and go on your way and do the same thing over and over again, that's not really grace. That doesn't change you. But if we really encounter Jesus, something changes. And the call for you and me is to go and leave our life of sin. To leave it. It hinders us. It holds us back from what God has. I'm sure Jesus looked at this woman and just thought about, I created you for so much more than this. Man, I don't want you walking in this sin. This isn't going to fulfill you. This isn't going to bring you life. And in this moment, face to face, this encounter with Jesus, she is given a second chance to leave her life of sin and find the life that Jesus offers. So for some of you, you just accepted grace, said, okay, Jesus forgives me, and you've gone back to your old way of life. You keep going back to it, thinking that's still what's going to fulfill me. But if that's your experience of grace, then I don't know if you've really experienced the grace of Jesus. Because the grace of Jesus motivates us to be different, because we realize when we come face to face with Jesus that there's something better that he offers. That he came to give you and me life, and life to the fullest. What a difficult moment for this woman. Can you imagine? It was probably way more comfortable for her to be living in her life of sin. And you would think that this would be the worst moment of her life, being thrown out in front of people, being exposed. But I wonder if we could track down this woman 10 years later, sit down with coffee with her and say, tell me about how you felt in that moment. That maybe at the end of that conversation, she would say, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because the exposing of her sin brought the opportunity for her to experience life. And if there was no exposing, there was no life. See, some of you think that I can never expose my sin to people because they'll judge me, they won't love me, they'll think less of me. And that is the best enemy the lie has for you and me. Because as long as you can keep it a secret, you're never going to find life. And you'll keep struggling with it, you'll keep wrestling with it. If this woman had never had an encounter with Jesus that day, who knows where she would have been? If she would have gone back to that life, Jesus might not have been there the next time, and she might have ended up dead because of her sin. But actually, there is grace in the exposing of our sin. And for some of you, the step in 2017 is you need to tell somebody about your sin. You need to confess with your mouth that I'm wrestling with pornography, that I'm cutting myself, that I'm dealing with depression, that I'm sexting people. You need to speak it. Because when you put it out there, it takes the power out of it. Satan loves secrecy. And some of you, what's holding you back and weighing you down is the weight of shame and guilt, thinking you could never tell anybody because you're the only one who's dealing with this. No one else would understand. But let me tell you, when you come face to face with Jesus and your sin is fully exposed, he doesn't condemn. That's where true grace is. Like, you're the only person who's holding yourself back from living full life in 2017. You're the only person holding yourself back from experiencing grace. And some of you are so afraid of what would happen if you exposed your sin that you're just settled into your sin. You say, like, this must be what life is. This is the best that there is. But let me tell you, that is not it. We would not do this if that was the best there is. Why even gather together and worship God and talk about the Bible if we're just to settle in our sin? Maybe, just maybe, there's something more that God has for you. For some of you, that's the encountering Jesus for the very first time. Maybe you've never given your life to Jesus, and you've been trying to walk in your own ways, and it has brought you nowhere. It hasn't offered the hope that life has promised you, and you need to come to that encounter with Jesus where you say, I get it. I accept your grace for the first time. For some of you who have been Christians for a long time, you need to have that encounter again. And you need to tell somebody, talk to someone about your sin, about your struggles, about what you're going through. Expose your sin. Because if you are going to have the best year yet, you're going to have to leave some stuff behind. And what I know about sin, it loves to hang on. It loves to hang on, but you got to cut it off. And the best way to cut it off is to expose it. And what I know about when our sin is exposed, because I've seen in my own life, that the experience of grace that comes with it is beyond and unlike anything you could ever imagine. Some of you have never really, really experienced the grace of God because you've always held back a little bit. Said, okay, I know you forgive me for something, like I lied to my parents one time when I was a kid, I stole a cookie. I know you forgive me for that, but you couldn't forgive me for this. But yet he's ready. But are you willing to come face to face with Jesus and be honest and real? Because I promise you there that there's grace and there's only love. But also there's an invitation and a command to leave the life of sin. Because there is no place for sin in a believer's life. God has way too much for you and me in 2017 for us to hold on to our junk and our old ways. So next week, we're gonna start something new on Wednesday nights, okay? So I think right now it's pretty easy for you to come in every single Wednesday night and be completely and utterly fake with one another, right? Like, you're like, how was your week? Oh, it was so good. Or like, oh, it was awesome. Like, I just love my life. Like, it's incredible. Like, I'll just Snapchat a little bit. Like, it's amazing. Like, do you see my new Yeezys, man? They're so cool. Whatever that is. Something they do, whatever. You know, it's so easy. Like, we sit around, we have all these fake, dumb conversations that we walk away and we're like, well, did my youth group for the night. What a cool social gathering we have on Wednesday nights, guys. Sounds terrible to me. I don't want that. Do you really want that? Do you really want to talk about Yeezys and Instagram all night? You do that every day anyways. Why come here to do it too? Let's just go somewhere else and party, right? No. What if GSM became a place where we could be real and honest with each other? If GSM came to a place where every week we made a decision before we walked through the doors that tonight, I don't care how uncomfortable it is, I'm not going to be worried about what other people are thinking because I know GSM is a place that's filled with people who have experienced grace and who give grace, and we're able to be real with one another. I think incredible, powerful things would happen. Anybody else agree with that? Like, some of you have more depth than Instagram. You have more depth than the clothes you wear. You might not even know you have depth. But you might start digging inside of you. You're like, oh my gosh, there's more to me than I ever thought. You might discover things. Man, you might be 13 or 14, but God has already placed a call in your life that's bigger than you could imagine. Don't settle for the lame life that you think you see everybody else living. God has used younger people than you to do some of the most amazing things in history. Do you know that most of the disciples were around y'all's age back there, high school dudes? They were guys just sitting around talking about their Yeezys all the time. They're like, look at my sick sandals, man. These are so cool. Like, these are 3rd edition, man. They're so awesome. Sitting around, and Jesus comes and says, leave your lame life and come follow me. There's something better that I have for you. And some of you are waiting to the day when you're ready to follow Jesus, when the call comes, when you are least ready for it, that Jesus is calling you to step out now and follow him in a fresh and new way. Man, I want to see depth in this room, man. I want to see people who have a real encounter with Jesus. Our mission statement isn't just cute, right? We want to raise up what kind of students? Dangerous students. I've never met a dangerous student who changes the world, who's like, yeah, I just got a new filter for my Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you are doing amazing things in the world. I am so blown away by you. No, but I've met students who are like, I get it. I get what Jesus has done for me. I'm finding ways in my school to get involved and to love people. I'm sitting with the person who no one else sits with. They're making a difference. And some of you have that inside of you to be dangerous, but you're not stepping into it because you're settling for something way less than what God is offering you. So next week, we're going to start something new, that every week, you're going to hear me talk less, and you guys are going to talk more. We've done table groups sometimes here and there, but what we're going to do starting next week is we're going to split off every single week into different genders, by different ages. You're going to have the same leaders every single week with the same people every single week, and every single week, you're going to get together. You're going to dig deeper into the Word. I'm going to kind of give a little primer message, and then you guys are going to do the work to discover more, which is kind of like learning to do Bible study that you can take home, do it. And you're going to talk about what you're wrestling with. You're going to give prayer requests. You're going to pray over one another. For some of you, you might think that's super uncomfortable. But man, I want to see more in 2017 for us as GSM. I don't want to see those groups, man. I've sat in the groups with you guys. And prayer requests like, man, I got that's a test on Monday. I haven't studied for it all. And I'm like, not going to study for it. I'm not going to have time. So would you just pray that, like, I do good? I'm like, no, I'm going to pray you fail that test and you learn to wake up a little bit. Study. Somebody call it study. Some of you need to be honest with your people in your group and say, no, I'm really wrestling with this sin, and I need you to pray for me. If you were the person to pioneer that, be the brave one, I'm pretty sure all of a sudden someone will be like, me too. Me too. Me too. 9 out of 10 dudes showing pornography, I think it's 100% of guys. I'm just being honest. I've looked at pornography sometime. I'm guessing the percentage is higher for girls too. We are way too inundated with social media and the internet to not be exposed to things. And so if you were to pioneer the way, people would be like, you know what? I'm really insecure with my body too. And I don't have it all together either. But But you're going to have to make a decision that I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone and be real. Because you're not going to grow if you don't do something different this year. You're not going to get somewhere else if you do things the same. Let's do it different this year. Is this something you guys can get on board with? Anybody over here? We get on board with that? Okay. Tonight, what we're going to do to close, we're going to make it more intense here. I hope you feel intense right now. Anybody? Need a massage right now? You're like, oh, I'm freaking out, man. All right. Got this survey here, and it's 100% confidential. You don't have to put your name on it, if that's what it means. Don't write your name. There's some really tough questions on here, like what kind of things do you struggle with? How often do you read your Bible? Like, what's your biggest questions about the Christian faith? And there's other questions. It shouldn't take too long to fill out, but here's the deal. This survey is 100% pointless if you're not honest. Like, it does no good for you to write, I never struggle with that. I read my Bible every single day. Like, yes, I am the greatest Christian of all time. Like, it does no good for us to get those responses. We don't know who you are or what you're saying, but this survey is going to help us form the discussions we have and the series we do and know how we go forward as GSM. So just know if you lie, you're changing the direction of the entire youth group. And if I get like 20 of these back that say, nope, I never struggle with anything, I read it, I'm going to know your sin you struggle with is lying. And we're just going to have 12 series this year on lying, okay? Until we get a real survey back. Are we cool? Can we be honest? You're going to spread out. Do not be close to a person, because I know human is like, are they worse than me? Oh, I'm doing better. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I've been there. Trust me. I'm not perfect. Okay. So, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, spread out, and be completely honest. Okay, so what you're going to do, there's no gender or age group on there, so what we need you to do is if you're a female, put an F. If you're a male, put an M. If you're in middle school, put MS. If you're in high school, put HS, okay? Can you guys do that? But don't write your name on it, or I'm going to call your parents and be like, your kid is seriously messed up. All right? And when you're done, fold it in half, and put it in the basket of an anonymity, where nobody will know. Anonymity. It's like Nemo. All right? Can we play some music?